Neale needs no introduction, first of all, but if I have to do an introduction, it would be that Neale is the messenger, and he is the author of Conversations with God series that have impacted millions of lives around the world. And in my personal experience, it has been the most impactful and the most life-changing book I have ever read.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here, and I'm happy that you're talking about something that's very important to our world right now.
What is your definition of pure love?
Could I just take one step back and start by saying, I believe that many of the world's problems are political problems, are economic problems, are social problems, and our spiritual problems. Many of our problems in all those areas could be solved if we simply created a new definition of God for those of us who believe in God. And that is 8 out of 10 people. Surveys have shown. Sociologists have taken surveys around the world, not just in Russia, not just in the US, but all over the world. And they've asked people a simple question, one question: do you believe in a higher power? And surprisingly, 8 out of 10 people say yes, we believe in a higher power. There's more, more going on here than meets the eye. There's more going on here than we can see with our naked eye. But we can't seem to agree, even though 80% of us agree that there is some kind of higher power, we can't seem to agree on what it wants, what it demands or does if it doesn't get what it wants, or if we can even use that higher power in our own lives. So we can't, the world's religions can't seem to come to an agreement about that. And what's interesting, Anya, is that there are over 7,000 religions in the world right now. But we still can't agree on a simple definition of God. So I have produced a new book called The God Solution, in which I offer a radical, almost revolutionary definition of God in 2 words in English. I don't know how it is in Russian, but in English we would say pure love. How do you say pure love in Russian? Pure love.
There are 2 ways to say that. Oh, чистая любовь. That's
Okay.
one way.
Good. That's good enough. Tisha, you boys. I did my best. Pure love. Now, what pure love is the kind of love that needs nothing in return, that asks for nothing in return, that even demands nothing in return. Anya, this is spiritually revolutionary because most of the world's religions believe in a God who loves us, but who also says, you must obey my commands, you must do what I say, you must give me what I want, or I will punish you. And my punishment is not going to be simple, it's going to be living in hell for all of eternity after you die. I will send you to hell. So this is a spiritually revolutionary idea. But if we decided, if all of the world's religions and all of the world's people decided that God was pure love, then we could use that as a new moral ethic, a new ethical foundation for all of our human interactions, not just our religions, but for our social interaction, for our economic interactions, for our political interactions, for every one of our interactions between nations, between races, between religions, between people of different economic status, the rich and the poor, between the male and female, between people who are having a different sexual orientation, to all the different people there are in the world. If we could treat each other with pure love, we would then find a way to create finally peace on earth and bring an end to all the hostilities that have been going on. Do you know, Anya, we have had armed conflict, fighting between people with weapons for 92% of recorded history. And somehow we have to grow up and grow out of our idea that the way to solve our problems when people don't agree with us is to use force. And not just force, but killing, to actually kill people, because we have an idea that if we kill enough people, we can get them to do what we want them to do. All we have to do is kill enough people. And that's a very sad way. And all the countries of the world, not just one country, but almost all the countries of the world have experienced that idea and have used that idea as a way to get what they want. So what I am suggesting is that we embrace a new kind of love. Not, I love you if, but I love you because of who you are. I love you simply because you're a human being who deserves to be loved. You know what's sad, Anya, is that we can't even love the person across the pillow in the same way, much less the person across the world. And so what I am suggesting is that we find a new way to love and to start with ourselves, to find even a new way to love ourselves without condition, not I love you if you do what I say, but I love you because you deserve love, because you are part of the human race. And the human race is a part of God. It is an expression of divinity. Everything in the universe is an expression of divinity. I could, of course, be wrong about all of that, but I don't think so.
Thank you, Neale. Can we please talk a bit more about examples of pure love? What are your favorite examples?
Well, when we say I love you to someone else, the example is, I don't need anything back from you in order to love you. I don't love you if you make me breakfast every day. I don't love you if you promise to sleep with me every night and to do romantic things while you're about it. I don't love you if you give me all of your money or spend all of your money on me. I don't love you if you make me feel good about myself. I don't love you if you love me back. Pure love says, I love you without getting anything back. Now, an example, most people, if they have been blessed in their life, have held a baby in their arms at least once. Maybe it's their own baby. Maybe it's the baby of a friend or a family, some relationship. But if a person has ever held a tiny baby in their arms, they know what true love is about, because they love that baby and they don't need anything back from the baby. They don't say to the baby, I love you if you're a good little girl. I mean, the baby's 5 months old. And so we love the baby simply because of its purity and because we don't need anything from it in order to love it. We love it simply because it is. Now, if we can love grown-up people the same way we love babies, then we've experienced pure love. Now, many people would say, well, Neale, that's not a fair example because babies are little babies and they don't know any better. They don't do bad things. They don't do bad things to us. But if we treated grown-up adult people the way we treat babies, they wouldn't do bad things to us either. We would have a new way of relating to each other. So, but the reason we treat babies that way is that we see the purity of the baby. You're holding a little baby in your arms. Oh, such a sweetie pie. And we see the purity of the baby. And so what we are invited to do is to see the purity of each other. Anya, all of us want the same thing. I don't care whether we're Japanese or whether we're Argentinian or whether we're American or whether we're Canadian or whether we're Russian or whether we're German. All people want the same thing: safety, security, opportunity, and love. We all want the same thing. So when we see the purity in each other, we can find a way to give each other what all of us want. We want to feel safe in our life. We want to feel secure. We want to feel that we have the opportunity to have a good life and to make our life better and better the older that we get. And we certainly want to feel that we have the opportunity to give and to receive true, pure love. So if it's amazing that we have 8 billion people on the planet who all want the same thing, and we can't find a way to get it to everybody. We only have a small percent, maybe 8 or 9% of the people in the world are able to experience that. And the other 90% have no way to experience it. We claim to be an evolved species. We claim to be an advanced civilization. But we can't find a way to get to the people what all of us want. 8 billion people want the same thing, and we can't seem to create it. So it's time, I think, for humanity to change its idea of who we are, of who God is, of what life is truly all about, and to change our ideas about how we can create in our own lives what it is we truly want.
So does it mean that we should be in a place, we should be sort of self-full before we can go into this kind of love, or not?
I think that none of us really do need anything when we know who we really are. See, if I think that I'm just this, If I think that, no, you don't understand. I am this, I'm this body, and I'm this mind. This is who I am. Now I got a problem. But if I understand who I really am, that I am not my body, I'm not my mind. My body and my mind are simply tools, pieces of equipment. Who I am is a spiritual entity. I'm a spiritual being having a physical experience. When I understand that I'm a spiritual being and that I always was, am now, and always will be, when I understand that I will live forever, that I have been given eternal life. When I know that and understand that, everything changes. Then I realize that I can't be hurt by anyone else at the spiritual level. And I also realize I don't need anything. I don't need anything from you to love you, because I don't require anything for me to be happy. When I understand that I am really a spiritual entity, happiness is and blessings are what I give to others, not what I seek from others, but what I give to others. Every spiritual teacher from the beginning of time has told us the same thing. Not just one spiritual teacher, not just Moses, not just Jesus, not just Muhammad, bless his holy name, not just Buddha, not just every spiritual teacher, male and female, through the years. Julian of Norwich, Beatrice of Nazareth, Elizabeth of Hungary, Teresa of Avila, all the great spiritual teachers, male and female, through the years, have said the same thing. Isn't that interesting? And what they've all said is, do unto others as you would have it done unto you. Simple formula. Treat others the way you would want to be treated. It's ridiculously simple. They all say the same thing. So I am suggesting that we simply follow the teachings and the recommendations of humanity's great philosophers and teachers of spiritual wisdom. Jesus said it very directly. Jesus said 2,000 years ago, bless your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, and do good to those who would do you harm. And when a man slaps you on the right cheek, turn and offer him your left. And when a man steals your coat, offer him your shirt as well. And when a man demands that you walk 1 mile with him, go with him 2. And raise not your fist to heaven and curse the darkness not, but be a light unto the darkness, that you might know who you really are, and that all those whose lives you touch will know who they really are as well. It's so simple. We can send a man to the moon. We can say that we're healing most of the world's major diseases. We can invent technology and put the whole world into your hand. We can create all of these human miracles, but we can't seem to find a way to simply live in peace because we refuse to listen to the message of all the world's great teachers who have all said the same thing. And what is our answer? Нет понимая.
You did this well. Can we look together at the subject of pure love in extreme situations like the war, right? If what would pure love do in these cases? People who are sent to war without their desire to fight, or if they don't go there, then they go to prison for 10, 15 years. And the situation, like what, I mean, all these young boys who have never, who don't want to fight. I mean, how do we use the power of pure love in these situations?
We have to back up a step. We have to find out why people in power, whether it's President Putin or President Biden or President Trump or anybody in power, not just one country, but why are people in power acting the way they're acting? We have to stop condemning each other and stop making each other wrong. We have to sit down with those people and say, is there a loving way for your objections to the way the world is to be resolved? How can we solve the problem without killing each other, without needing to send boys to war? We've done the same thing in the United States. We sent our children, young boys, 17, 18, 19-year-old young men to war also. All countries have done that. All nations, or I should say many, many nations, have done the same thing. It's not just, it's happening now in one country or two countries, but we have had conflict using weapons for 92% of recorded history. So what we have to do is to start loving each other enough to say, what hurts you so much that you feel you have to hurt someone else in order to heal it? What hurts you so much that you feel you have to hurt someone else in order for you to stop hurting? So we have to change humanity's understanding of who we are and why we are here on the planet. Now, to answer your question specifically, whether it's the United States or Russia or any other country of the world, when young men are told to go to war, at least in the United States, we had a system called conscious objection. If you said you were a conscious objector to war, that it was a matter of conscience with you, you were given the freedom not to have to go to war. You may have been put to work, not prison, but the government may have said you have to work on a government project, help to build a new railroad or whatever it might have been. But they wouldn't put you in prison because you were called a conscientious objector. And all you had to do in America was raise your hand and say, I'm a conscientious objector. My religion or my belief system tells me that war is not okay. It's not appropriate. And you were given the freedom not to go to war. That's because in America, we believe in freedom, that each person should be able to decide for themselves. And that's a basic American way of life. It's not true in other countries, in all other countries. Because in totalitarian countries, where everybody must do what the leader says they have to do, or they go to jail, they go to prison, then they don't have any choice. Choice is no longer part of the process. So we have to see if we loved that person who is making those decisions, is there a way that we could change their mind about how to solve the problem that they feel they can only solve by killing other people? I would love to sit down with the leaders of all the world's nations and simply say, surely in the year 2022, surely if we are an advanced civilization, surely we can find a way to resolve our differences without killing each other. What if we took killing off the table? What if that wasn't an option? And that's what people all over the world are asking right now. Let's take killing off the table and solve our problems in another way. But everybody can't get everything they want. Everybody can't get everything they want. It's not practical. So we have to create what we call compromise. Is there a way to compromise? And that's the question that we face in the world today, all over the world, not just in Russia or the United States or in Ukraine or in some other country, but all over the world. We're asking the same question. There was a terrific hurricane that hit Puerto Rico last week and knocked out all the power, knocked out all the electricity. And so they were shipping in, ships were coming in from Great Britain and from Germany, and that with fuel in order to fuel the gas engines, the generators, so that at least there could be electricity and people could survive. But the law would not, there's a law in Puerto Rico, in the United States, that was passed 100 years ago, that a ship cannot offload, they cannot deliver any merchandise, fuel, or anything else, unless certain conditions are met. The ship has to have been registered in the United States. It has to be delivering goods and services from the United States, or we can't let them take the stuff off the ship. It's 100-year-old law, and we say that, well, we have to obey the law because it saves jobs. It saves jobs in America. That's insanity. Why would such a law even be passed? Or even if it is 100-year-old law, why don't we just make an exception in this case, make a compromise and say, of course, we're going to allow the Puerto Ricans to receive the fuel that's being sent there. Right now, the ships are not being allowed to dock. They have to stay off the dock. And so they're floating around in the ocean waiting for permission. It's those kinds of silly rules and regulations that create problems on top of problems, as if the hurricane wasn't a bad enough problem. Let's make it impossible for them to get any help. There's an idea. Why didn't I think of that? And that's the way humanity behaves. That's the way humanity behaves with each other. Because we think that survival is the basic instinct. But I'm suggesting that survival is not the basic instinct. The basic instinct is the expression of our highest self, which I call divinity.
What is the power of pure love?
The power of pure love is an energy that heals wounds and makes us feel safe again in the world. And that's what we need to feel, safe again in the world.
Is it the most powerful power in the world?
I think it is. I think it's the power that creates life in all of its forms, and it's the power that sustains life in all of its forms. I believe it is the most creative power, yes, in the universe. When it's used in the way it was designed to be used. Mothers don't have to be taught how to love their babies. Most mothers don't have to be taught how to love their babies. And if you want to see the truth of that, look at the animal kingdom. If you look at the animal kingdom, you will never see a mother abandon its babies. It will protect its babies like a mama bear. You better not get near the bear cubs, because the mama bear will let you know that she's there to protect her babies. Maybe we should all be mama bears and protect each other as if everyone was our baby. That's what I call my wife. I just say, "You're my big baby."
Neale, in terms of the situation with the war, do you think we should say anything else about using the power of pure love in these circumstances?
Well, we would ask a simple question. There's really a fundamental question that we would all ask. What would love do now?
Mm-hmm.
Not just love for ourselves or love for our country, but love for all people everywhere. What would love do now? And we would invite all the people of the world to answer that question. What would love do now? When we do to others, to other countries, and to other people, what we would want other countries to do to us, then we would have obeyed what's called the golden rule. That's called the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have it done unto you. So the answer is really very simple. What would love do now?
Genius. Pure love is unconditional. And could you please help me understand, for example, if we have to go to work and we have to work in order to get money or whatever, right? So that's already conditional. And if all our activities, if everything in the world could be unconditional and based on pure love only.
That's the way it is in advanced civilizations. There are highly evolved civilizations in the universe, in the cosmos. You know, there's intelligent life elsewhere in the universe. There may not be intelligent life on the Earth. But there is intelligent life elsewhere in the universe, I'm told. And there are highly evolved civilizations in the universe where it's exactly the way you describe. They don't give money back and forth. People do what they do out of love for themselves, for each other, and for the whole civilization. And so people don't trade pieces of paper with pictures on them that we call money. People simply do what they do because it's for the common good. Now, there's an irony here. The strong irony is that communism is based on that idea. That's the whole idea. That's why it's called communism. The community works together for the good of everyone in the community. That was the foundational idea that Lenin had behind communism. But like in the United States and elsewhere in the world, the original idea got distorted and turned into something else. That's happened all over, not just in Russia. It's happened in America. It's happened in Europe. It's happened all over the world. We've taken a beautiful original idea and twisted it until it became an ugly representation of the original thought. But, you know, there was a children's story from France that came out many, many years ago called The Three Musketeers. I don't know whether that story is told in Russia, but it is told in America. The story of the Three Musketeers. Did you ever hear that story?
Yes, of course.
Well, I don't know because cultures are different, but the story of the Three Musketeers is they said, all for one and one for all. All for one and one for all. A simple formula. But the man who wrote that book, Dumas, a Frenchman, was obviously centuries before his time, because he was putting before humanity an idea that humanity was not ready to embrace. All for one and one for all. But now we have the opportunity to grow into a new way of creating civilization. All for one and one for all. And we don't have to pay people and give people pieces of paper with a picture of somebody on them. We call it paper money. We don't have to pay somebody more for one thing than we pay for another. Do you know for years in the United States, we paid men more than we paid women, sometimes twice as much, to do exactly the same thing. It took 50 years for us to agree in the United States to pay women the same amount of money that we pay men for doing exactly the same thing. What's that about? Well, of course, we all know that men are superior to women. I mean, that's understandable. So we should get paid more money. But this is called growing up. We've had to grow up in America, and it's been very painful. In America, if your skin is black, even today, you're in trouble. You better not be stopped for a traffic stop. Better not be stopped by a policeman if the color of your skin is black, because you could be in trouble. Because you will be treated the way you would never be treated if your skin was white. Because we haven't grown up in America any more than we have in Italy or France. Oh, forget about France. France is a lost cause. Nobody does anything in France. Nobody obeys any law. Since Napoleon. I mean, it's crazy. So, what's the old saying? The French don't really care what they do as long as they pronounce it properly. But it's just a joke. But so we can laugh at ourselves. We need to hang on to the ability to laugh at ourselves, to laugh at the tragedy of life.
As a summary, it is possible to really make pure love as our golden standard for everything, and sort of be like all these super advanced civilizations, right? Neale.
Yes, it is possible. I believe it.
100%.
Yes, it is possible, but it's like children who mature. Children when they're 7 or 8 or 9 years old, they fight with each other and no, it's my toy. It's my toy. I want it. I want it. And parents have to teach their children, no, 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 no. So now the entire human race has to stop acting like children. And that's what's happening right now. We're growing up and we're experiencing what I would call, honestly, growing pains. It's a painful experience, but we're experiencing growing pains. And I believe as more time goes by, we will finally stop behaving the way we're behaving with each other and start being nice people who don't need to kill each other when we don't agree with each other. We can find a way to disagree agreeably. And it is possible, I believe, for us to do that.
I absolutely love the idea that God is a feeling, and it's a feeling of pure love. I'm just in love with that. What is your authentic power?
What is my authentic power?
Correct.
I think my authentic power is the power of the divine. See, I happen to believe there's a higher power. I join the other 8 out of 10 people in the world who believe there really is a higher power of some kind, the creator of all of it. In my language, I call it God. You can call it whatever you want to call it, energy or life, or whatever, the universal essence. Call it whatever you want to call it. But I believe that is the essential power. And I'm going to go back to the word we've been discussing for the past 25 minutes, which is pure love. I think that authentic power is the power of pure love that can overcome our anger. It can overcome our frustration. It can overcome our primitive impulse to strike back. It can overcome our fear, and it can overcome our doubt. I've been told in my conversations with God that all human decisions emerge from only one of 2 energies, fear or love. Authentic power is when we decide to abandon our fear and embrace only one energy, and that's the energy we call love. And we can do that. Human beings have the ability to do that. When I was a child, I didn't want to get on the roller coaster at the carnival because I was afraid. But as I grew older, I abandoned my fear and I got on the roller coaster. And I found out that it was fun. So our opportunity as human beings is to use our authentic power, which is the power to abandon fear. What if we weren't afraid anymore? See, what I want to say to President Biden in the United States is, what are you afraid of? What are you so afraid of? What I want to say to when Donald Trump was our president a few years ago is, Donald, what are you afraid of? What I want to say to President Putin is, what are you afraid of? What are you so afraid of? And I want to say the same thing to the leaders of all of our countries, and for that matter, the leaders of all of our religions. I want to say to the Pope, what are you afraid of? Why must you tell people that unless they are Catholic, they're going to hell? Why would you say such a thing? Why would you tell every Jew, every Muslim, every Buddhist, every Hindu in the world they're going to hell because they're not Christian? Why would you say that? That can't be true. What are you afraid of? So I think that authentic power is the power to abandon fear. Fear in English, F-E-A-R, false evidence appearing real.
I love that.
So let's abandon our fear. Let's sit down at the table together and not be afraid of what we're going to lose, but be more excited about what we can gain by simply loving each other. That's how we solve problems in relationships. I mean, between 2 people. husbands and wives. We sit down together and we talk. And if we truly love the other person, we say, okay, we've had a disagreement, but that's not going to separate us. That's not going to be the end of us. And it's certainly not going to be the cause of us being violent with each other. We're not going to resort to violence. So all we have to do again is get married. We need to marry each other, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, till the end of our lives do us part. It's called pure love. It's really very simple. I love you, come what may. Safety. My darling wife said something to me wonderful a couple of years ago that I never forgot. She came home one day. She was out shopping for the afternoon, but she came home. And I got out of my chair to greet her. She said, no, sit. So I sat back down. And she came over and sat down on the stool, on the ottoman in front of my chair. She put my face into her hands. She held my face in her hands. And she said, "You are so safe." I said, wow, what a sweet thing to say. What brought that on? What made you say that? She said, I just realized when I was coming into the door, I could tell you anything. I could tell you I just smashed the car and I totaled the car. It's completely undrivable. Or I could tell you that I lost $10,000 in the stock market with a bad investment. Or I could tell you anything. And you would be safe. I wouldn't lose your love. You're so safe. So I think that love is saying to the other person and the other nation, it's okay. You're safe with me. We may not always agree, but you will always be safe. That's what God says to us. You're safe. Even if you're not belonging to any religion, even if you're an atheist, you're safe. There's a game in America we call baseball. I don't know if they play baseball in Russia, but baseball was but it was invented. It's true that baseball was invented in America. It's an American game.
Okay.
and when you round third, you go first base, second base, third base. When you go around third base, you head for home plate. Mm-hmm. And then you slide in, they try to tag you out. And the umpire says, safe at home. That's what God says to us. The human race is rounding third, my dear Anya. We're rounding third and we're heading to home plate. And we want the universe to say, you're safe at home. But it's up to you. And it's up to me. And it's up to all the Americans, all the Russians, all the Spaniards, all the Italians, all the Germans, all the Frenchmen, well, maybe not the Frenchmen, but all, it's up to all the people of the world to stand together and to say, okay, fair enough. We disagree, but you're safe at home. If we can send a rocket to the moon, we can do this also.
We can. I believe
Even in France. The French have an interesting phrase, raison d'être. What is our reason for being? Shakespeare, a wonderful English writer, said it perfectly. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to rise up against a sea of troubles, than by opposing to end them. To die, to sleep perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come, when we have shuffled off this mortal coil. To be or not to be, that is the question. It was Shakespeare who also wrote, there are more dreams in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. And this is our opportunity to embrace that wisdom. There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our present philosophy. It's time for us now, all of us, to grow up, to grow into ourselves, and to become the greatest version of who we were always intended to be. And we can do that. All we have to do is follow the suggestion of Mr. Gandhi from 40 years ago, when Mr. Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see. Be the change you wish to see. It's simple. It's really very simple. I could, of course, be wrong about all of this.
But I don't think so.
But I don't think so. Thank you for the opportunity to share this time with you.
Thank you, Neale.
You're welcome.
It's been a beautiful talk.